say, hey, I've been released. What do you feel, what should be our game plan going forward? My representation, I called, and his assistant picked up the phone. And at that particular time, he said, hold on. And I hear my agent coming into the office, into the room, and saying, hey, Latish has been, they didn't put me on hold, they just put the phone down, and he said, Latish has been released. And I heard my agent say, here, get off of that call. Terry Glenn, who was a wide receiver at that particular time for the New England Patriots, had an accident, and we need to, get him situated. That just let me know that I never want another athlete to feel that way.
Keep it a buck. We here in the studio.
A lot of these offers don't be that real, so it's not committable.
That feel like when everybody's getting their turn and it's not yours. What they call you? The Godfather of New Jersey.
Powerful man. I ain't gonna brag, but that's what they said. I ain't say that.
Well, we're back with another episode, man. This time we're fortunate enough to, bring out a whole new aspect of the game. Since about 2019, I believe name, image, likeness has come into play. And a lot of us don't understand the landscape of that. So we're fortunate enough to be blessed with the presence of Latish Kinsler, who's working with a lot of the young student athletes, work with some pro athletes. And he's gonna sit and break down the NIL game to us, break down what he does, his life experiences, and what brought him here. So Latish, man, thanks for coming here.
He's the man behind the plan.
Yeah, so we're here to learn. Like, if families want to know what's going on, man. For starters, I think you just had a big year. I seen your name pop up on a lot of kids' hashtags, right? And then I seen a lot of those kids commit. I seen your name pop up with the Tyler Malones. I seen your name pop up with most recent college, Jalen McClain. I gotta assume Train, but Train didn't commit yet. So, but I gotta assume you're representing your nephew, Elijah Kinsler, who's also just committed. So, we had to get you on this show, man, and see how the magic work, like what goes into this, man, and what's this life like? Because I know it's not as easy as it seems. I know you deal with some things in regards to perception and all those different things. So, for starters, man, we're going to kick it off.
Let's just find out a little background, like, where you from, you're growing up playing sports. Talk a little bit about your background.
Well, appreciate you guys for having me on. You guys are doing big things. Really proud of you guys, and definitely you just keep it up, keep going. Okay. But so I was born in Newark, Beth Israel Hospital. I was raised in Essex County, from Newark, Orange, East Orange area. My early adolescence was spent martial arts. My father is Hinton Kinsler. He's in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame. He has a school, Kincaid School of Martial Arts, and I started karate at 3, and that taught me discipline, taught me perseverance, also taught me not to be afraid of anyone or anything, things of that nature. So that's kind of my adolescence. I got into football, later on in life. Played Pop Warner, played Montclair Cobras for a couple of years.
Why not East Orange Jaguars?
Oh, not the Jaguars.
Yes, family members played for the Rams, so I had a lot of close ties with the Rams. I don't know what a young man that lived on my street played for the Cobras. So he was like, "Here, come up. I'll get you a Montclair address. Come on up and play with the Cobras." So that was a great experience as far as playing with the Montclair Cobras. And then my career shifted more to basketball. Getting into high school, things of that nature. I went to Science High and Orange High. The football side kind of really kicked in full steam at my senior year at Montclair Immaculate. Yes.
And to my understanding, you went Division I.
Yes.
So with 1 year of football?
Yes, primarily. I played some at my sophomore year at Orange High, but my senior year is when I played, the entire season. And, from there, I did relatively well, so well enough to get multiple offers, and decided to attend the University of Cincinnati.
What was the best part of your game?
I was a receiver. I was recruited as a receiver. So speed, being, at the time I was 6'2", 180, but extremely, extremely fast. I attribute it more to not going to that particular school for 4 years. When I did play as a senior, no one knew who I was. So by the time the middle of the season, I had already accumulated before I started getting double and triple teamed.
So what made it, like, all right, so you said you was that science ended up at Orange. So was it your parents that said to you, like, let's move from this public to this private thing, or was it like a move?
It was me not being able to, mature, at an ample time. I mean, I still had to find myself, as a young man. And as you know, unfortunately, you may have to bounce around to find yourself. So going from C.L.T.A was a school that I needed to be in a program that had sports.
Gotcha.
That you can excel in sports. So C.L.T.A was more of an academic, so I needed a balance of both for me to be stimulated, throughout my entire time there.
I find that interesting, especially being that you're being interviewed by, Nas himself, because Nas always talks about that as well. He says, like, there's student athletes, and then there's, how do you say it?
Athlete students.
And what is that? Break that down.
That's a kid could be an honor roll student, good in school, as long as he's doing well in his sport. The moment his sport go downhill, then you can see the grades starting to slip. Yeah. So I experienced that.
Yes. And I would say that's true, because when I went to Montclair Immaculate, I actually ended up having scholarship offers in basketball, track, as well as football.
Yeah, that's a real thing, and I think that not only do a lot of parents don't know that, but a lot of coaches are unaware of that. Because I remember you said that to me, and I repeated it in different circles, and they didn't get it, but I understood it. Luckily for me, I was afraid to fail at home, but I know my best grades were during the basketball season. And it's not because they were giving it to me for basketball, it's because I wanted to be eligible. I did just enough to be eligible to play the sport. If you remove the sport, then, I had a D average, but you needed at minimum a C plus. And not all kids are, real, like not a lot of kids aim high. Like me, I was always capable of getting an A whenever I wanted it. Figured that out because if I had a D and I needed an A to make it a C to play sports, I'd go get an A. But I did just enough, right? Yeah. And sports, encouraged me to do that through sports. You remove sports and it was like, what's my motivation? So when you made that statement, I understood it, and to more degrees, you got kids that don't have at home what I had at home, right? So some of those kids probably won't even come to school if you remove sports, right?
I've seen it. I see it all the time.
So, and also during that period of time, so sports season, you're mentally locked in to your sport. So I found that you also typically are more mentally locked in when it comes to academics.
So let me ask you, so growing up, you grew up in a two-parent home or one-parent home?
Two-parent. My parents were 17 years old when they had me. And I definitely pay the utmost respect to both my mother and my father for able to maintaining a household, being at such a young age, having a loving, respectful household. I always wanted to just be around my father and do the things that he did. So martial arts. I wanted to join the karate school at 2. My mother said no, it had to be 3. So things of that nature. So growing up in a two-parent household, really, I think it really helped me and assisted me, and it kind of set me to to patterns and things of that nature when it comes to discipline, when it comes to my father giving back to the community. A lot of the karate kids, karate students, were from single parent households, and watching him donate his time, donate the energy, just making sure that they were situated. A lot of them were at my house. Yeah. Andre Tippett, Hall of Famer, Barrington High School, great, was someone that my father trained, and he was a constant at our house.
Wow. That's dope. That's big.
I want to talk about like Cincinnati, what that was like, right? Going in, as a freshman, really only having 1 year of football under your belt. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because I try to, like, you know, give the parents and the children, you know, a crash course on what it's like, right? So here were you, somebody that came from 1 year of high school football. It's a small pool compared to what you're going to get in D1 football in a football state such as Ohio, right? Yes. What is that like for a kid? Can you walk us through that?
Well, it's a culture shock being from the East Coast going to the Midwest. So that's for starters. Second, when I accepted the football scholarship because I thought that it was different, because my adolescent years, I was always projected to play basketball in college. So to play football, I said, okay, I'm gonna be different. So not really understanding what it took and what the requirements and demands of football. So when I initially got to the University of Cincinnati, that was something that was more of an eye-opener in reference to what the demands of playing at a major college program and what that meant and what that took. You know, so that was something that really was something that was an eye-opener, and it took an adjustment. And my first year I redshirted, you know, so you had to get in the weight room, you know, kind of, and also get mentally prepared to play at that level. Then after that, I became a 4-year starter at the University of Cincinnati, at defensive back. So I think that I was able to make the adjustment. You know, when it came to hard work, there was nothing that happened at Cincinnati that was harder than training with my father. You know, there was nothing as far as preparation. I felt that he always made me compete against the bigger, you know, students. Almost always, you know, one thing about karate schools, especially growing up in that era, every school, you know, in, let's say, Essex County, you would travel around, and it was kind of, it was all family. So you would travel around to each school. You would compete at each karate school. So let's say the Turtle System was a karate school, and you would go there. Let's say we would go there on a Monday night, and if you're the best fighter at your school, you would compete against the best fighter at that school. So it was just that type of atmosphere. It created competition. It also created camaraderie, because afterwards, when you would see other students out, and even today, I mean, it's still a network and a family of its own as far as when you're dealing with certain karate schools and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So that prepared you for what you would see there. Did you get recruited as a wide receiver and turn to a DB?
That's what I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask you, when did that switch, and what was going through your head when it was like, look, man, you're going to go from receiver to DB?
After my true freshman year, the coaches called me into the office and said that they felt that it would be best served if I moved over to defense. The explanation they gave me was the best athletes play on defense, so that sold me. You know, at the particular time, of course, I wanted to play receiver. I thought that I was going to be the next, you know, Tony Hill, Drew Pearson, you know, so those are, you know, so I definitely wanted to play. So that was an adjustment. But after playing spring and then going into the following year, it was something that, you know, I did grow to love.
Got you. So now you finish college ball.
Yes.
What happens after that?
After college, preparation for the draft. You know, I mean, every college athlete wants an opportunity to play in the NFL. I thought that my body of work in college created that opportunity, so I trained and prepared for that. I was not invited to the NFL Combine, but our pro day, because we had such a successful season, there was going to be a great deal of schools that, NFL teams and scouts that came. So I ended up working out for, you know, 25 teams and things of that nature. And as a rookie, I ended up signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Gotcha.
As a rookie free agent.
So who was like helping you or like guiding you through your process, right? And who advised you on like your agent?
Yes. So unfortunately, at that particular time, there weren't a lot of advisors. So you're kind of navigating on your own through your process. So when it came to an agent, it was, okay, these group of, men are, trying to procure my services and things of that nature. So I just kind of went through the process of seeing who I felt comfortable with, but it wasn't actually someone being able to advise me in the process. It was more of me just feeling what situation felt the most comfortable for me.
Do you feel like the guy you might have picked might have didn't do something right in your whole process? Because like you said, you wasn't at the NFL Combine. Not to say that, he didn't get you there, but 9 times out of 10, the agent is the one who pushed to get the client in.
They have some ability, but it's more also of what the school sends out, because a college program will say, okay, these are my core guys for this year, things of that nature. So from there, or you just, you're able to excel to a point where they're going to give you, an invite, things of that nature. But that wasn't the representation, that wasn't a problem with that. It was just a matter of, just that at that particular time, everything was limited. So again, you had a certain amount of games, you had a certain amount of bowl opportunities. So you had a certain amount of players that were invited to, to the combine. Maybe on our team, I think we may have had 4 or 5 players, so they didn't want to, exceed, that particular number for that year. So that wasn't an issue, But unfortunately, I did have multiple agents in my brief, career, in professional athletics. But that's just also a par for the course if you don't have someone that's able to advise you or educate you in the process until you get to that point.
So now we've talked about, your childhood through youth sports, high school sports, college, and you talked about a brief career in the pros. Naj just talked about, what part an agent played in that. What we're interested in knowing now is going through the pro combine, your brief stint as a pro. How did that prepare you for where you are today? And to first of all, tell us exactly what your title is and, what you do. And then I'd like to know how your experiences going through all of that prepared you for, what you do now.
Okay. Yes. My title is I am President of Football Operations at Lifestyle Sports Agency. I represent high school, college, as well as NFL players. In terms of NIL, I am the chief negotiator, representative.
Can you tell our parents what NIL, what is that, what exactly that is?
So NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. That has been a part of high school sports in New Jersey since 2021 and is also a part of college sports. And what that means is that you're able to maximize your, financial gains from name, image, and likeness, from using your particular athletic ability, off the field pursuits to be able to maximize your earnings financially.
Okay, so would you be able to tell us what you learned along the way as a player that helps benefit you today in advising other players?
Yes. So I had a rough, professional career. I started off with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I then was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles, and then my third NFL team was the New York Jets. One of the things that I learned was to value the athlete. The last team that I was released from, when I was cut, the first thing you do when you're released is you will contact your agent. Say, hey, I've been released. What do you feel, what should be our game plan going forward? My representation, I called, and his assistant picked up the phone. And at that particular time, he said, hold on. And I hear my agent coming into the office, into the room, and saying, hey, Latish has been, they didn't put me on hold, they just put the phone down and he said, Latish has been released. And I heard my agent say, here, get off of that call. Terry Glenn, who was a wide receiver at that particular time for the New England Patriots, had an accident and we need to, get him situated. That just let me know that I never want another athlete to feel that way. Okay, to be on that side of the phone. So I would never want to treat anyone like that. And I never want that to be something that happens to someone that I'm associated with.
Wow.
So that
I
was
can
a
even
serious,
imagine that, how that felt. Whoa.
So you think about that as far as your life just flashing, in front of you, and you're like, okay, what direction am I going into now? And to have that is something that, needless to say, that was the last time I spoke to that company.
This episode is brought to you by Keep It A Buck Clothing. Stay true to yourself and what you wear, and keep it a buck.
Some people think what I do is easy, but they wrong. I'ma keep it a buck with you. I'm a different breed.
Move! Come on, work. Good.
Stay true to yourself and what you wear. Keep it a buck. Yes, sir.
Wow. So now that you actually out here now in the game of
Representation. Yes.
That's it. Representation. So now, could you name some of the clients that you represent now? Like just a small brief.
Yes. I mean, I've worked with universities across the country, so the gamut. So from University of Miami, to every Power 5 school in the West Coast to Texas, things throughout. So in reference to athletes, so I mean, I have a family member that is at the University of Miami that I represent. I have Jalen McClain's, is at Seton Hall Prep, who recently committed to Ohio State.
Yeah.
I've done, the deals for Sadir Mitchell, who plays at the University of Texas. I mean, you name it. I mean, I know you mentioned Taiwan Malone, at Ohio State. So it's just, dozens of, young athletes that we've worked to be a part of assisting them in their process of getting all the information so that they can make educated decisions on the schools that they're going to choose.
So right now, let me ask you this: it's two questions. Are you only in Jersey, and what's your plan?
As far as working with athletes, I work with athletes nationally. So I have athletes in multiple states, throughout the country. My plan and my goal is just to continue to build out the business and to be able to serve the young athlete and their families, and just to be able to give them, all the information.
Do you ever think, like, with some of the athletes that you represent, to start like a company where we can kind of educate them on the business? So this way, like outside of football, after their football is done, they may could actually come back and be on your team, actually helping you build the brand.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think your referrals are the lifeblood of any business, and to be able to work with people that you've assisted along the way, I think that would be great. I think that's something that I would definitely take into consideration, which comes into expanding the business. But of course, when you're a high school athlete going to college, the last thing you're thinking about is when your career ends. Hopefully that'll be a long, long time down the line. But you build those relationships, and you definitely hope that, that those things are things that are options and opportunities.
So we talked about what made you get into this, did we? No.
No, so what made me get into the business is just wanting to make a difference. Again, knowing what I went through and knowing if I knew, and at that particular time, we were talking about just representing NFL players, and knowing what I knew at that particular time and how I could be an asset to an athlete coming from college, going to the NFL, as far as the ups and downs, things of trials and tribulations, and also to keep them on a steady course as much as I could, as far as letting them know, listen, you know, these are the pitfalls, these are the perils, things of that nature. Now, at that particular time, I took 5 years off from the agency business. My son was in 8th grade. My son, Jordan Kinsler, plays, you know, he's a reserve running back at Rutgers University.
Okay.
In 8th grade, my son decided that he wanted to play football. As an adolescent, I never wanted him to pursue athletics because I felt that it was something that I didn't maximize what I thought that I was going to be. So in 8th grade, my son said, Dad, I want to play. So I said, okay, it's going to take certain dedication and determination to be able to reach your optimum level. And it's going to require us to spend a lot of time together. So I stopped the sports agency at that particular time to focus exclusively on my son's training and things of that nature. Once he graduated high school and ended up at Rutgers, it was time for me to get back into the sports agency business. It just so happened that it was right at the same time of the NIL, you know, so it was kind of a natural progression. You know, I just needed to have a home. My childhood friend Omar Cooper has Lifestyle Sports Agency, and they have a basketball division. We talked about just, you know, opening up and having a football section or sector of the business. So at that particular time, I started the football division of Lifestyle Sports Agency. You know, so now we have a football and basketball division.
How do you think your presence is viewed in the industry? And like when I say how your presence is viewed, again, you know, NIL is fairly new, so you're fairly new. I can remember for myself being referred to as a street agent, and that's usually a name that they would give people that come from within your community of the athlete. So now when we get professionals such as yourself, do you feel like you're viewed as a street agent, or how do you think you're received?
Not at all, you know, because I'm in the meetings with the collectives across the country.
What are collectives? Tell our viewers what collectives are.
So a collective is a pool of donors or boosters at a university who pool their funds together to create a collective, which then funds the athletes that they're looking to recruit for that season or that year, that calendar year. So having those type of relationships, being able to communicate with the collectives at said school and things of that nature, it gives me credibility when it comes to being able to talk to families, because you can have experience. Again, I've been a part of companies and I've represented dozens of NFL players. I played at the highest level. All of those things are great, but unless you've been in those meetings when it comes to what high school athletes are being offered currently, you still don't know. So having the ability to have sat in those board meetings when it comes to those particular programs that are looking to recruit, you know, players that you represent, I think that gives me that type of legitimacy, and just continually to build and develop and grow, because the nuance of NIL is new, and it's something that it evolves, and it's evolving every day. 12 months ago, the business was totally different than 6 months ago, and now 6 months ago is totally different than today.
Did you hear what Cory Booker and them is up to?
No.
So Cory Booker and some other politician, recently are trying to pass a bill to put power back in the hand of the NCAA in regards to NIL.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know what that'll look like, but we speculate what that looks like is really governing, trying to get the collectives out of NIL.
I think that at this particular time, once the cat is out of the bag, it's almost impossible to bring it back. It's just, you know, the NCAA could have taken steps early in the process before 2021, 2022 to create a more, more level playing field, you know, but they chose not to be involved in that and allow programs to regulate and delegate the type of spending that they do. So, you know, I think it's virtually impossible.
All right, I'd like to ask you, again, you represent some kids, and as your representative, you gotta have the hard conversations. And the hard conversations may be like, you know, we have, you know, little Billy here, we're the University of San Jose. If there's a San Jose, I'm not talking about the real I just randomly picked a name.
Yes.
And we have little Billy coming in here, and little Billy's value is far exceeding what we're willing to do for him. And now this kid has representation, and you're that representation. Have you found that you are not liked by some universities because a kid they could have got for nothing, now you come in and say, whoa, little Billy has over 10,000 followers.
Yes.
Little Billy's, these are his stats, this is his rating, this is what he's really worth. And I'm going to tell you, if I'm a university, you bother me. So let's talk about the elephant in the room. Have you run into that?
Yes.
And how do you deal with that? And like, how do you feel about that? Like, how does it make you feel as a person to hear some things, you know, kind to devalue your presence in the lives of families?
I feel that as a former athlete and a former high-level high school athlete going to college, that today's athletics and recruitment, there's no way I could have done it without representation, because there's so many intricacies and nuances that go into making your decision that wasn't when we came up. You know, when you look at financial components, but not only that, now you're able to say, okay, what is the best place for me position-wise? Okay, how many recruits is this program bringing in? How many recruits, you know, or how many athletes in my position is this program bringing in? So you're able to kind of say, okay, and itemize what are the best decisions, you know, that you can make. So when the university is concerned, it absolutely rubs some programs the wrong way, because they feel that the program feels that they could do certain things that they are accustomed to doing and have done for years and years in the past. And unfortunately, in today's, you know, recruitment, it doesn't apply. Where you have a school that may be able to get a player out of position and just want to use him as a body, or not really have the value that another program is. I think it's now, having me as an advisor, I'm able to get all the information when it comes to each program. Okay, this is what this program feels about you. This is what they feel they will get from you. This is how many position players they're bringing in this year. And to be able to, now we can kind of sit down, we can assess situations. We can assess, okay, is your goal to play early? So which school is going to offer you those opportunities? What do you want to major in? Is the program that we're looking at will allow you to be as stern academically and athletically, will allow you to take those lab classes and things of that nature. So those are things that we look at on a full circumference before we make a decision. You know, so yes, I know people get enamored about NIL and the money aspect, but there's so many other factors that go into a young athlete making a decision that I like to be a part of. That's over and beyond the component of just the money component and what we negotiate on the NIL side.
Can you give us an example of like what is like going into a meeting and representing?
Yes. Sure. So just depending on if you're looking at, let's say, the time frame, because again, meetings come in different parts or different aspects of recruiting. So you may have, let's say we may have our meeting after the official visit, or we may have the meeting, let's say after the junior season, just depending on where that time is with that particular program in the process. So a meeting could be where I'm talking to the program. And again, when I say the program, these are the collectives that you are having, these meetings with. And we're just discussing as far as what I'm a listening party at that particular time. They're explaining what they feel the value is of said player. And then these are the terms of what they're willing to offer at that particular time. And then we will have a discussion afterwards, because I'll take that information back, sit down with the family, we'll discuss the matters, and then I will give my professional opinion and input, and then we will be able to go back and have an educated conversation with the collective, as far as our second, meeting. And these things go back and forth for a period of time up until either, we have numbers and terms and things of that nature, or we just will have a difference of opinion with certain things.
So now the NIL deal you may get from coming in as a freshman, is that the same deal throughout the 3-4 years, or do it get negotiated?
Yes, it depends on the term. So let's say it's based off of family needs as well. So you may have an athlete that we feel needs more security, so you will have a longer term. Or you may have an athlete that is undervalued, we feel is undervalued, so you say, okay, we're going to go in with a shorter term, and then after a year or 2 years, we're going to work on renegotiating, things of that nature. Now, that's the primary market. Then you have the secondary market of NIL, where you're creating other options and opportunities for that athlete at that program, university.
So while we got you here, Nas just asked a great question, and I don't know if you can, I know some of the things you got to keep in your hat, but my partner and I was going at it about on our last show when we were trying to decide where Kaj and Nair would go to school, and I brought up to, my partner that, I thought that Rutgers had a chance with Nair because he'd probably want to stay closer to his mother. Big guys usually are really like, real mama's babies. Like, Rashawn Gary and his mother is like, you think you can get to Rashawn to make a decision, good luck, because he's going to be like, yo, whatever mom says, that's what it is. And he meant that. But Nas said, in the new day of NIL, they'll take his mother and father and move him down to close to where he's at. So if the kid is having homesick, and I'm not saying this is this kid's particular situation, but we were just talking on a scenario.
Yes.
Have you seen that now where, a kid that might be struggling with just being homesick, where his family has been relocated?
I mean, that's a possibility. It all depends on the family dynamics. Rutgers was Nair, Daniels. I mean, he's a...
Yeah, we're not even talking about him
Yes.
particularly right now.
Yes.
We're talking about a scenario, right?
Okay,
so
yes.
I want to be clear. I don't know what his situation is, and I'm not asking you to speak on his situation. You made the statement of family being taken into consideration
Yes.
as NIL too.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
what brought this up, because... Okay, so family, sometimes that may mean a kid can really boogie, he can get down, but he's gonna miss mommy and daddy. And like Nas is saying, if I want the kid bad enough, then I bring mommy and daddy with him. Does that happen? We're not talking about it.
Yeah, provisions. Those are provisions that could be allotted for in the process of recruitment.
Okay.
So yes, you can work things out. Again, we're talking NIL, so we're talking a plethora of different options that can go into having a athlete make their decisions. And also how to delegate some of the funds that they are receiving.
Toward
so
that.
if they can budget, if the athlete is able to budget for the family coming and and being able to fit that into the budget of the NIL component, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's it's done.
So you got that one on?
No, hey, I was 2-0 anyway.
You've been batting pretty good even with your picks.
Everyone that's in the business that understands you have to build relationships. That's who, if you've been in the business, that's what you go and do. So that's what the opportunities that I create as far as having relationships and knowing I have to build out those relationships and I can utilize those relationships to get things done, such as that, making sure the pro day, making sure that the scouts are going to be there, things of that nature.
Gotcha.
So that's something that he does have, but he's not the only one that can create that type of.
So let me ask you this though: if you got this obviously,
No problem.
if you got a straight somebody blowing the charts up, high college doing this thing with the. You don't need no help with that.
No, you always need help because you need
Okay.
you need when you say help,
The help is I'm talking about
of representation.
Yeah.
Because you always have to, unless he's even as the number one pick, you still need structure. You don't need all rookie contracts are slotted, so you don't need, let's say, you still have certain criterias that you have to just make sure that those things are in place, and so you have to just make sure of that. But you always need help because if you're the 15th pick, what did old boy Bryce Young, 37.5 million? Now 37.5 million for the number one pick, and if you're the number two pick, that's just going to be a lot less than 37.5 million, because again, it's slotted from the year before with a certain percentage of appreciation from the following year. So you do need that assistance, but it's also the other things. Now, I mean, you look at the marketing opportunities and things like that, and just making sure those deals are in place so that when you hit that NFL team, everything, you're most effective.
Gotcha.
Make sure. So it's always, you always need to have a team.
So do your percentage go off of the first round, second round?
No, because you will have your agreement in place before, once you. So let's say your last college game. That's when you sign with an agency. So that.
But if the kid knows, I'm a first round.
Oh, it's all negotiable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all negotiable.
I know we've spoken about, your history coming up in regards to what brought you into sports agency, your son himself, got you out of the industry, made you focus on that. He's now with Rutgers and different things as that. What I'm sure a lot of the parents is going to want to know is, your job is to get the kid the best deal financially, right? When you represent a person, do you only focus on the best financial deal? Where are you at in regards to that? What makes you tick? Is it the finances? Is it the kid's what's best for the kid in regards to playing time? Who are you when it comes to that?
It's it's collectively a full gamut of those particulars. Finance, of course, is a part of it, but I like to tell a family that we are looking at three-part entities of making a decision. For one, the number one and primary goal is the academics. Okay, then from the academics of the university, then we focused in on the athletic side. What does this particular program fit the athletic ability of that said athlete? If those things are playing time, position specific, things of that nature, that's what we look at for the athlete when it comes to on the field. Then there is the financial component. And I would like to think that with those three together, they each a third. That's what comes to, formulate and being able to have an educated decision after putting all those things in place.
At this current time, the way you profit off this isn't really like a lot compared to most people. Why is it that, like, what allows you to, in essence, like, give back? Like, it's like almost like you're giving free service. Like, I remember telling someone, you know, some of the deals that you work, and they said, well, it probably cost him just as much to fly around the country as he makes. Make that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So for me, it's not about charging the most. And there are a plethora of companies that charge more percentage-wise than what I charge. What I want to do is have a set percentage that I am able to earn a decent living, but I'm more so focusing on building strong foundational relationships with families, with the particular athlete, as well as with the university, because I think that will hold true time and time again. So what I like to do is just make sure that it's something that when it comes to charging a certain fee, that it's not something that I feel that I could live with, as well as I'm able to make sure that the athlete is in position.
Where do you
thrive.
think that part of you comes from? Like,
My father, and having the upbringing, you know, of growing up in a dual parent household, but my parents were 17, so my parents were kids as well as I was a kid, myself and my brother. And growing up in that type of setting, seeing the dedication that my father had to karate students that didn't have dual parents. My father did things like toy drives at hospitals for young people that were during Christmas time. Yeah. So there's a multitude of things that my father instilled in us, and I seen it. And my father is still today a consummate giver, and I feel that a lot of those qualities are, you know, that I have instilled from my father. So I would like to think of myself as a giver, and in giving my time, giving my expertise, giving my experiences to an athlete as well as to a family, I think that will create more opportunities down the line as far as being referred to another family after having the experience with me that, let's say, a family would have. So I think that that's important. And I think building long-standing relationships will create other opportunities as well. If a player, again, we're talking maybe 1% of athletes have an opportunity to go to the NFL. But if you have a great experience and if you have the opportunity, God willing, you have an opportunity to have an NIL deal going into college, then you're creating that type of financial opportunities for yourself and your family, making the right decisions there, going through college, whether you have a tremendous college career or you don't, at the end of your college career, if you choose to go to the NFL or if you don't, having a nest egg where you're able to say, okay, I want to pursue a career in athletics, that's one thing. But if not, you could say, okay, I'm going to go into the business world. I have a great start to my career. I have X amount saved from, my playing days. Whereas back in the day, in our era growing up, there was no ending college with a nest egg talking about let's pursue other careers and things of that nature. So I feel that, I just will want to be a part of that.
I just want to say, man, you definitely is well needed, for these kids coming out, because a lot of them, their parents don't know, you know what I'm saying? So obviously you got in the parents and you got in the kid at the same time, and you educating the parent on what's going on, you know what I'm saying? So we appreciate you. I appreciate you for what you bring into not just the state, but all across the country, but being a Jersey guy, like what you doing for the state and what you doing for the kids that's coming out of New Jersey. So we salute you, want to give you your flowers. That's big by you.
Thank you. I think it's very important that you'll hear the phrase "given all the information" from me a lot, because I think that's very important when, and young athlete as well as the family, it's going through this process. I want them to have all the information so that they can make educated decisions. Now, is all the information making sure academically what that school has to offer, to make sure athletically what that school has to offer, but also to make sure that financially they get exactly what what the athlete has earned and what the athlete deserves.
Gotcha.
So I just have a question. I have a few questions. Like, how do athletes choose you, or do you choose athletes? I know for once you're talking about like agents, when you're in college, you know, athletes a lot of times sought their agent. You know, sometimes, I mean, agents come after you as well, but you get to pick and choose. How does a kid that's watching this show that, you know, because I don't want to get it, who you are misconceived, right? And what I mean by that is, you know, there's a kid somewhere sitting that probably has 0 offers. That's like, if I can get with this guy, he's going to get me 10 offers, right? What is the process to this, you know, to working with you?
Yes. Well, of course, I recruit, but as well as I receive, you know, whether it's DMs, whether it's referrals from someone else, I receive a multitude of, you know, clients from different components, you know, I receive, you know, athletes from different facets of, you know, how the business goes. I may receive a referral from a family, you know, a family member. I may receive a DM as well, but I also go out and I try to procure business as well. When it comes to who I would work with and who I wouldn't work with, it doesn't, I mean, athletes come in all shapes and sizes as well. There's no particular measurable that I look at that I say, okay, if you're not this particular height and weight, that I won't work with you. A lot of it also I just base off of, I want to have a conversation with you. I want to see how realistic you are, whether you are a 5-star or whether you're a 1-star. Let's just talk about these things and where you see yourself. Then also, how do you want to get better? How do you know, if you view yourself as somebody that's going to do whatever it takes to achieve some of those realistic goals, then I'm probably going to work with you, because I know how it is. I know how it is to be an underdog. I know how it is to be under the radar. But I also know when you have the ability and you have the drive, that there's a lot of things that you can do to, you know, to achieve the goals and dreams that you have. You know, so that's how I look at that. Now, I am able to assist in terms of helping it with offers in reference to utilizing platforms where I do a lot with the media outlets, you know, the 247s, Rivals, things of that nature, in reference to building my clients' profile and platform with those particular companies. So when I have an athlete that I'm working with, those are some of the things that I'm looking to do.
So it's not always peaches and cream, right? You get with guys and you're going to advise certain things or whatever. And then you get people that's like, whatever you can do, and I'm telling you from my own experience, whatever you could do to help, you know, a person, it's like it's like they're like, I bet you I can mess it up. How is that? Like when you're working with, like, you know, how do you perform with that? Do you stick with that, or does it become a point where maybe, you know, you guys have to go your separate ways?
Yes. Well, I try not to have what is called a bleeding heart. You know, I do care. I care tremendously. But again, that's just part of my upbringing. But there comes a point if I'm giving that I know it's great information. It's information that we should definitely take heed to and take the advice of. And if it's constantly not being utilized, at some point in time, I will have to remove myself from that, because there's so many other athletes that want the information, want the advice, want to work. That's what to me, it's the work. It's the preparation. I mean, I think that's most important. And you have if you're not able to do that, at some point I will have to, remove myself from the equation, unfortunately.
Before we end this, I just like to know, like, what are some of the deals that you're most proud of? Some of the kids you worked with, and some of the deals, it was like you had a lot of options, you helped them narrow it down, and they picked the school, the family feels fulfilled, the student athlete feels fulfilled. You feel like, we've got this one done, and it's just on the next. So talk about it.
I guess a couple that come to mind were Tommy Kinsler. He's a freshman at the University of Miami, offensive lineman. I thought that deal was something that it definitely had his roller coaster ups and downs in reference to originally committing to one school, then decommitting, and going with his heart in choosing the University of Miami. And it was a great fit for him. The coaching staff really is an advocate for him, and that's something that really suits him well. Nair Daniels committing to Georgia, I thought was huge for the decision for him and for his family, because again, he has had a meteoric rise over the past 12 months and inundated with just an unlimited amount of just opportunities, things of that nature. So to be able to make a decision with, again, we're talking about schools, dozens of schools contacting him daily, contacting the parents daily, trying to stay laser focused on what are the pertinent and important things for him, what they wanted as a unit to be able to get those things. I thought that was something that I think we covered and did exactly what we set out to do, with that decision. I think Kaj, committing to Rutgers, I think that was one that when you go against the grain and go against what probably everyone else thought you were going to do, but you have the principles and you have a father and you have your family setting of why you made those decisions, and to really have that culminate into that commitment. I thought that was something that was very proud of that, and being a part of those particular deals. Even also Jalen McClain. Jalen McClain, committing to Ohio State. That's huge for him, huge for his family. He has such a great family as well. And I thought that how they handled those particular events leading up to that commitment was great. And those people, I really like working with families that you don't have to understand the process, but we are able to communicate about, okay, let me hear what's important to you. Now let me make sure that I get those answers and get those things resolved of what's important to you. Then from there, we're able to, move forward to making sure that we make the right decisions.
Hey man, shout out to Nair Daniels, Kai Sanders, Jalen McClain. Obviously they Brick City Kids alum.
Yes.
But I told him this.
Yes.
Fran Brown wasn't going to lose to Rutgers on that deal with Nair. If it's Georgia, Rutgers, at that time, I knew Georgia was going to put that work in and pull that off.
Well, Rutgers did a tremendous job.
They fought hard.
Yeah, they did a tremendous job, and it was something that really came down to the wire. He was initially supposed to commit earlier in the week, and we needed a couple of extra days just so that he could really process on what they were going to do.
But I would have loved to see them both go to Rutgers.
Yes.
To play together. I would love to see them. But the kids is actually in great situations, and it has a lot to do with their upbringing, where they coming from, and then having someone like you to guide them through their steps of the way. So, yeah. Hey man, I'm glad to have you on. Keep it a buck. You're welcome to the show anytime. Lynn, you got any final thoughts?
And we just thankful to have you come through, man. Share some of your knowledge, man. Let us get a peek inside to who you are, what makes you tick, what you bring. in your representation of young athletes, your experience, everything, man. I just hope that we did a great job of providing the families with the necessary information on, why they need representation. Thank you for taking your time out, man, to sit with us and talk about that. But actually, before we go, just like the thing, you can sum it up in as few words as you can. What do you think about the 25 class of New Jersey?
Very exciting. And I look forward to working with a number of class of 25. So
you spoke on your son playing at Rutgers.
Yes.
But we didn't hear about the talented daughter you have.
Oh, yes. Kennedy Kinsler. She's actually the athlete of the family. She's currently at Boston University for summer intensive. She's an aspiring professional ballerina. She's going to attend Butler University on a ballet scholarship this upcoming fall.
So what school is she at now?
She graduated from Franklin High School.
Okay.
She did a gap year, or bridge year. And now she is heading to Butler.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to say. You got a nephew in Elijah Kinsler, West Virginia. You got another nephew down in Florida at the University of Miami. You got another rising sophomore nephew, 6'5" kid that's blowing up my mind right now. Playing football down there that we never know what can happen with him.
Yes, that's to be determined.
Yeah, man. I mean, we got to stay tuned. We might have a surprise coming for y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Kinsler family is deep, dog.
Yeah, man. So, again, thanks Latish Kinsler, man, for coming and sit with us to educate, to keep it a buck, families and on exactly who you are and what you do and what the future of high school football / college football is beginning to look like. We appreciate you taking the time out, and that's another episode of Keep It a Buck.
Peace.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.